Hey guys, let's do this. So I'm going to bring up Cluey, and you can see there are some interviews that have already taken place. This little strip here is the main UI, right? And it can be quite obstructive sometimes in the course of a high pressure interview. So command backslash or control backslash is the thing that will bring it up or take it away, right? And then command enter is the thing that will bring up the chat interaction where you can ask it anything. But this chat interaction, in my opinion, is actually kind of useless. It's not very helpful in a high pressure setting. I'll show you what I think is more helpful later. Let's look at what the workflow will sort of look like. It's basically just 3 steps. The first is just start a Cluely session, command enter, put all your resume info and the job description inside. And then the second step is on the top left pane, I'll show you later. It will come up with certain maybe suggestions about things you can prompt. That is much better than actually typing into the chat interaction. And then the bottom left pane will show you certain concepts that emerge over the course of the interviews that maybe you don't understand. You can just click on it to find out more. And let me just quickly show you the resume that I'll be working with. So, yeah, let's say I'm this person called Roger Dodger in SF. I'm a PM with 4 years of experience. I worked at Cornhub, of course, decreasing their early churn. I was at Addiction Corp, scaling their app to 50,000 users, and I will be applying for a role at Fugle, which is a PM role, which is quite technical. You see, there's this framework and that framework, ROI, OKRs, A/B testing, stuff about SQL, amplitude, mixed panel, Kanban, and so on. So it's technical deliberately. Maybe we can see something interesting when we use this later in Cluely. So let me just copy this, right? And let's just go back to Cluely. I'm actually going to start a Cluely session right here. And let me just pause the listening first and let me again command enter. And I'm going to just put all of this stuff inside to share my resume basically with Cluely. All right, so it basically just gives me some generic thing, but basically I've started my session and we are going to start the interview. I'm basically going to have this interview with ChatGPT. I've already prompted it, so we will have a mock interview. Hey, what's up, Mabel? Are you there? Are you ready for the interview with me?
Absolutely. I'm ready whenever you are. We can dive into some friendly chat first and then jump into those deeper questions about product management metrics. Just let me know how you'd like to start.
Cool, perfect. So I am ready. Let's just pretend like we are having an interview right now. You start with the simple, easy questions, and then you'll get into the more difficult product manager questions at Fugle, and maybe we'll get to showcase some of Cluely's features. Let's go.
Sounds great. Let's jump right in. To start off, let me ask you a simple one. Can you tell me about a recent product you managed and how you approached defining its vision and strategy?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so let me actually start with my own introduction, right? I'm a PM with 4 years of experience. I'm a CS grad. And I actually started out with after my CS degree with Addiction Corp, where I helped to scale the company's app to 50,000 monthly users. And I also then went on to work for Cornhub. At Cornhub, the current project that I'm working on is increasing the onboarding flow and reducing their early churn right now.
That's a fantastic introduction. It really shows your progression and impact across different roles. Now let's dive a bit deeper. Could you walk me through how you typically use data to inform your product decisions, especially when it comes to metrics like user activation and retention?
Okay, so you want me to talk about times that I kind of used a data driven approach, right? Am I understanding this correctly?
Exactly, you've got it. I'd love to hear about specific examples where you used data like analytics dashboards, A/B testing, or user feedback to guide decisions and improve those key metrics. Feel free to share any particular challenges you faced and how you overcame them as well.
Okay, so I usually start by defining key metrics such as activation and retention. This is usually done when I'm speaking with various stakeholders and we come to an alignment about what these metrics are. And then I use analytic tools. I believe that you guys also use Amplitude, Mixpanel, SQL. I segment the users, I identify drop off points, and then I run A B tests on onboarding changes. The most important thing for me is to understand the why behind the numbers. So, say for example, at CornHub, I built a dashboard to track onboarding funnel metrics. Noticed a big drop after some of these steps, so I worked with design to simplify some of these steps in the onboarding. Ran an A/B test and saw an activation jump by 18%. I believe that was in my resume. I also surveyed users who churn early and used their feedback to refine the flow. How is that?
That's a great explanation. It shows that you have a solid grasp on the process of using data to drive decisions and a clear focus on user experience. It's also great that you incorporate qualitative feedback along with quantitative data. Now, let's shift gears a bit. Can you talk about a time when you had to prioritize features or initiatives and how you balanced business goals with user needs?
A time, sorry, excuse me, could you repeat that question? You broke up a little bit there.
Of course, no problem at all. What I was asking is if you could share an example of a time when you had to prioritize different features or initiatives, specifically how you balance the business goals with user needs during that process.
Yeah, sure. So at CornHub, I had to choose between launching a new feature users requested, such as looking through various niche genres of corn, niche types of corn, and optimizing an existing one that would drive more revenue, which is looking at the most pretty looking pieces of corn, the most generic looking pieces of corn out there. So I worked with stakeholders to score both options using an ROI framework. I gathered user feedback and ultimately prioritized the optimization since it better aligned with business goals and still improved user experience rather than the new feature that was requested. How's that?
That's a great example. It really shows how you effectively balanced user demands with business priorities. It's clear that you take a data driven, strategic approach to decision making. All right, let's keep the momentum going. If you're ready, we can dive into some questions about specific metrics like A B testing or OKRs whenever you're up for it.
No, I think that's enough. Thank you very much. Okay, so the thing is, you saw a very, very rough and small demo where I was actually BSing my way throughout most of these things. I don't even really know what Amplitude or Mixpanel or SQL are, but I just wanted to share with you that, yeah, I think the way to use this is that, again, if you look at the top the top left pane, it comes up with a few things you can fact check, you can recap, excuse me, you can ask follow up questions, or my favorite is just what should I say at this moment. And while you're waiting for the response to load, you can basically say something like, what should I say? You click on what should I say, and then you just ask like, oh, what was the question again? Or could you repeat that? Or you just ask something to clarify. Anyway, I think it's using one of the weaker models on the back end. That's why it's actually not taking that long, but the answers are kind of lame. And then, of course, on the bottom left pane, you can see that it actually kind of comes up with certain themes, right? Like define Corn Hub, or can you share examples of this and that, or define onboarding funnel metrics or whatever. Actually, I think this is really, really useful for just normal ethical like usage, like in meetings, right? Where you can actually just define stuff if you don't really know, especially if you're more junior. You can use this as your guide to really understand and onboard yourself onto a new job more easily. And if there's something you don't really understand, for instance, like I just clicked on one of these, I think it was define amplitude, mix panel. They're just analytic platforms, right? I mean, I do know what they are, but it's just a showcase of how you could kind of get a definition quickly and then quickly just ask for something. And then each time you can actually just ask for something more and just keep getting feedback as you go. Yeah, thank you for your time. I think this is pretty much all I have to share based on my early experiments. I just want to say one last thing. I think at the end of the day, Cluey is kind of shitty still. It's not really that great. That being said, I also think that this is the worst it will ever be, and it will start getting better. I don't condone any unethical usage, but I think that actually in meetings, in normal meetings, this could be a great way to just keep a recap. It will summarize meetings for you and like actually provide definitions if you were to ever lose track of what's going on. And most importantly, at the end of the day, I think that this can at best only be a helper because ultimately, I think having a great interview or great meeting is about entering the flow of a meeting, right? But if you're constantly looking at these responses, maybe they can serve as rough guides, but you kind of have to go and take a spin on it on your own and get into the flow of the interaction with the interviewer. I think that's pretty much been it for all the successful interviews I've ever had. But in any case, here's a little showcase because I couldn't find anything good online. I hope you enjoyed it. See you in the next one. Bye, guys.